We got plenty of pressure pushing through the system. Up and over to our pre-filter, typically just a 5 micron 20-inch. That's taking care of silt, sand, sediment, debris.
That's your blue filter?
That's the blue one, yes sir.
How often is that changed?
Typically, most people are going to change it every month to 2 months.
Okay, every month to 2 months? Okay.
So you go by days or do you go by the gauge?
Usually delta P. So when you get 10 psi across your gauges drop, that's going to be time to change the filter.
10.
A drop of 10. So right now, if we're sitting at 60.
All right, so if we're sitting at 60, once we see 50 on that.
That's saying 80, so once we hit 70?
Yeah, once you hit 70, that would be time to go ahead and change that pre-filter out. And there's the filter wrench, so obviously you would valve it off, relieve your pressure at the bottom, filter wrench twist to the left, whole housing will drop down, the replacement cartridge goes in and tightens back up.
Okay.
And I usually tell everybody once you put your filter housing in, I'm sure you guys know this, you turn your water back on, try to bleed as much air as you can out of the bottom there.
So when you shut the water off to that, to replace that filter, is there anything else on downline you got to do too first before you shut the water? Or
No, what I tell everybody
Okay.
is just when you're opening those valves back up, just nice and slow, nice and easy. And from there,
Okay.
you shouldn't have any issues. Obviously, if you slam it open, just like anything, that can cause you some problems down the road.
All right. And we're looking for 77 degrees coming off our mix valve on V4.
That's exactly right. So you want,
T1
There's a nice one line.
if you go below 70, you're gonna lose production. Or 77, you're gonna lose production. If you go above 77, you're gonna make more water, but your quality is gonna go down.
Okay.
So 77 is what the ROs are designed for.
Okay.
Coming out of the pre-filter, we go into our carbon tanks. And these carbon tanks, these are removing organics, they're removing chlorine, pesticides, pretty much any heavy contaminants that's gonna negatively impact the RO system. Once again, it's pretty detailed on what they do and what to look for. So obviously with these units, we would be checking our chlorine readings after on each shutoff valve there.
Okay.
And we'll get into the testing of that in a little bit here, but
So you're checking on SP2, SP3 over here.
that is correct. And then also we always check our pre-filter inlet on the RO here.
Okay.
Just to verify, I mean, obviously if we're not
Filter on
getting
the RO.
any chlorine breakthrough after our second carbon filter, we're most likely going to be good here, but always double check just to be safe. Because that chlorine, it will impact your membranes, and you start trashing membranes at $400 a piece, that can get pretty costly. So that's
Okay.
So does this go from one filter to the next?
it's just it's in series, so
It goes from here to this one and then to this one.
So they're daisy chained. Okay.
You got it. So they're daisy chained and ran in series. So you have your worker, you have your polisher. Usually these are going to be rebed about every 2 to 3 years. And that's when the valve comes off, the old carbon gets sucked out, the new carbon gets put in the tank.
What's inside of the filter?
That's going to be carbon media. So it's
This
a
little black
coconut
carbon.
shell carbon. Black carbon. Obviously, if you're rebedding or anything like that, you want to wear a mask because that can get in your lungs and it's not very pleasant from there.
Okay, now these are recharging systems too? They
They automatically backwash. I believe they're set for every day or two. Yeah, it looks like they're set for every day. So they're going to both regenerate on offset regeneration times. So when the system's usually down, that's when the systems are going to recharge.
Okay.
Then we come out of our carbon, so we've removed our sediment up front. Then we removed our chlorine and chemicals. Then we go into our water softener. So the water softener, obviously, as we all know in Indiana, the hard water is absolutely terrible. So with the water softener, we're removing the hardness, we're removing the scale. And when the system has to recharge, it pulls the salt in. So that's something we always want to keep track of as well. Making sure we have plenty of salt in the salt tank.
And your brine tank here.
Looks like there needs to be some salt added to the brine tank once everything's officially starting.
Okay, so it's not, yeah, you're not really softening in there yet.
Oh, well, it probably is, depending on how much water runs through it. But yeah, after that initial recharge, that's when it needs that salt.
Okay.
So our softener, we have our blend valve to get our perfect temperature right at the sweet spot. Our sediment filter for sediment, 2 carbon filters, and our water softener. Coming out of our water softener is sample ports. So you can test each specific port. You have your primary carbon, you have your worker, your polishing carbon, and then this will actually be labeled a little more so that you can test specifically right at that outlet.
So your primary carbon is going to be probably your first tank down there?
Yes, sir.
And then your secondary carbon polisher is the second tank?
That is correct.
And then your softener tank is not labeled here on the
Softener
diagram
tank
yet.
is not labeled. Here's a great place to get a sample, SP4.
Right.
That's coming right after our softener. That'll guarantee we're getting soft water throughout the system.
Okay, good.
So then we move on down the road. We come on in
I'll switch you.
into our reverse osmosis system.
Okay.
This is 6,000 gallons a day.
Guys, jump in there and look at this.
Once again,
Get
we
in there where you
got
can see it.
pretty good descriptions from AmeriWater on everything. Our pre-filter, once again, that's usually replaced on that system every couple months or so. It's not going to be needed as often as our whole system pre-filter because we're going to have pretty clean water already feeding this system.
Okay.
But once again, you have your pressure gauges
Okay.
on your pre-filters and your products. And basically, once again, that 10 PSI is really what we're looking for. So what a lot of folks forget with these units is they forget that the pre-filter is even on there. And then they get a pressure fault because the pre-filter hasn't been changed in 6 months. 9 out of 10 times when you see a pressure fault, it's going to be your pre-filter.
And you'll see that pressure fault in here.
Yeah, right on your
Right.
screen there, the display, it'll shut down and it'll say press PRESS.
So let me ask you, Jacob. So once you change that pre-filter, obviously you shut the valve off, flow, you change your filter out.
Sure.
And then when you get this fault up here, you're going to go into what menu to
Well, you
reset that?
just press and hold your power button,
Okay.
and that will reset everything and kick the system right back on for you.
Okay. All right.
So,
Okay, good.
Then coming out, coming in the product, that's our drain. And we come back out into our post-filter system. So this is basically for endotoxin removal. That's taking out your bacteria, that's taking out, well, really the dead bacteria, because your heat sand system is gonna kill everything in place there.
Okay. All right.
And your post filter, typically this is going to be changed about every 3 to 6 months. Not so much on a differential, more or less on a calendar override, so to speak.
Okay. Now the testing on this, we're going to be. Do we do a sample test on the endotoxins too? We have to pull a culture. Or?
Well, most dialysis folks, they're going to do a test once a month, and that is going to be for endotoxin. So
Okay.
yeah, that we would do that directly after here.
So the question I have on that is, we used to have biomedical
Sure.
engineering doing those,
Sure.
pulling those cultures. However, they're a subcontractor now for IU, and they're not responsible for
Oh, I
those
see.
cultures.
Gotcha.
So that's something, Kyle, we gotta work out.
Culture. Yep.
Yeah, we gotta figure all that out because, and then, for JACO, they're gonna require us to provide that information to them on that. So
Sure.
I know, do you guys do that?
We do that as well, yeah. So,
Okay, so-
there are some dialysis clinics where they have the biomeds and they take care of everything in-house.
Yeah.
And then there's other folks that say, no, you guys just come out once a month, do your PM, grab your samples, and go from there.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. That kind of gives us a roundabout idea. And this thing is the sand heater,
Yeah.
all the water's passing through that 100%, or is it only when the patients are being hooked up to the system?
Well,
Or
this is going to go off once a week. which is pretty common in dialysis to sanitize your loop and
Okay.
system once a week. The real nice thing about the heat sand is no chemicals. You really don't even have to have technicians to do it. No ozone, no kerosene, no Mencare. I mean, it just heats it. I think it gets up to, I want to say 150 degrees in the loop, and it takes usually a couple hours except for Sundays. So when usually everybody's down. And then it totally sanitizes that loop, makes sure all bacteria is eliminated from the loop.
Okay.
And then our endotoxin picks up any of the dead
So,
bacteria.
simple question, but just for knowledge, seems like there's two systems here. We've got the inflow system for our sanitizing the water on the inflow side,
Pre-treatment.
pre-treatment, and then we have our post-treatment system. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. Man, I really like these units. Most dialysis clinics, they have somebody that comes in for 8 hours on a Sunday, does the full sani themselves, and it's a lot more time sensitive. It's a lot more costly in the long run with the chemicals and everything else that comes along with it. But with these bad boys, it's pretty much set it and forget it.
Okay.
Units take care of themselves, and Joe from AmeriWater, he's going to give you guys probably more info than you even want to know on this unit.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into the water testing
Sure.
and let's talk about patient safety and what these guys are going to be confronted with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Well, daily basis, typically you want to test to make sure your pre-treatment is working right. So we're going to first check obviously our temperature on our blend valve.
Okay, temperature on the blend valve.
Make sure we're at that 77 degrees. That's not so much important as to the patient safety, but more or less just the overall production and water quality.
Okay. Then you're going to check this filtration to make sure your delta P across that filter's good.
That's exactly right. Make sure your delta P is good there.
Then we're checking SP2.
And we're going to check SP2. And we actually have a kit. I recommend that for just ease of use, you guys get test strips. They're a lot easier to use. Totally up to you. We see it both ways. Some guys have kits. Some guys use a test strips in dialysis world.
Okay, that's really be up to the maintenance guys and what they feel most comfortable with, but can you email me what test kit
Absolutely.
on a strip that we need? Thank you.
You got it. Excuse me, sir.
Right here.
So basically here, we need a bucket or some tubing. We gotta let this run for just a little bit here.
Yeah, because you want it to sort of filter out anything that's sitting in the...
Exactly. We want to make sure that our filter's working and everything's fresh and flushed. Do you have a knife on you?
Got a little fill cup there you can use.
How much you need? Now let's just get it right here.
All right, you guys, I'm just talking, so what questions do you have? Jump in there if you got some
Sure
questions.
you covered it, everything so far. Up to this point.
Need some bigger. Bigger.
Yeah. Can you use this cup over here, Jake?
Yeah, I think I may have to.
All right, now I got a question. Now this is sort of talking about the temperature coming off your mixing valve over here. You're not at 77 degrees. What do we do there?
Well,
We're gonna go ahead. I know we can change the mix on the water
yeah.
on the valve to get the temp up, right?
Yeah, typically. Actually, I believe it's these Allen screws right here. That will let more hot in or more or
All
less
right.
cold.
So our guys can manage that. They
So
understand
we're
that.
just making an adjustment there. And 77, that's the sweet spot. Yeah, looks like we are a little low. Once again, not going to negatively impact the patient, but it will reduce your production. So instead of a 6,000 gallon a day in 24 hours, that could turn it into maybe a 5,600.
Okay. Say again.
Hot water valve shut off.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. So, Jake, I was talking to the owner, I think it is. Rick, yeah, Kasner. And he indicated that somebody should be doing water testing. Is it weekly here right now?
Maybe not so much right now. I would probably, it's more important, thank you, when you guys are actually running, but it's not a bad idea right now just to get everybody in the swing of things,
Okay.
get used to everything, make sure everybody knows what's going on, obviously, before patients are here and in use.
Okay. We wouldn't be violating any warranty or anything like that if we set a, rotation of people to do it daily or weekly, right?
No, there is nothing wrong with that. Most clinics are doing it daily at most and weekly at least.
Now, in our existing system in the hospital, we do a daily check. I think Robert, you're doing it, aren't you, Robert? No.
Bach.
Huh?
Robert Bach.
Robert.
I don't know.
Okay, all right. I thought there were a couple maintenance guys helping him out though, or trained on it. Okay.
Now, do we need to, so, Jacob, on October the 18th
Yes, sir.
has been the conversation around really turning over the system.
Right, when Ameriwater water is
us.
coming out.
Is that on the 18th or 19th, your suggestion is that you do at that point really need to have daily testing? Or knowing that we're not gonna have a first patient until December 5th, so we're gonna start hooking up machines and other things and
Sure.
when should we really start the daily testing?
I would say the daily testing, I'd probably say a week before patients. Up until then, I would say weekly, just give everything a check just to make sure everything's in operation and operating like
Right.
it should be. So typically, we're going to flush this line for just a little bit, make sure we get plenty of water running through there. What I like to do is have each one of these valves hooked up, running directly to the drain with a poly line, and then you can just run it for a minute without.
So that brings up a really good point, because Robert, our biomedical engineer for our existing system, had trained us that we were going to drain those for at least 15 minutes is what we were doing. Now there's going to be enough water flow that, trying to do it through a little cup, or is that, if we have to run lines, is this something that Absolute does with the contract, or they just provide that barb fitting? And
Typically, it's the barb fitting, because some folks, everybody does it different. So some people, they'll have all the lines ran to like a manifold to a drain. Other people just have one line ran to a drain. Other people have no lines. So that's totally up to you guys. I would recommend, just for ease of use, is have a poly line running to each drain coming off each valve over there.
okay, well,
And then we do need to flush each one of those
yeah.
for 15 minutes?
Well, that's what we were doing in the existing hospital, Kyle. So
Well, that was a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for not daily, but I would say on your weekly checks,
On a weekly check, we need to flush each one of those for 15 minutes.
let them run for at least 10. 15 is kind of the industry standard.
Your nearest open drain is here in this corner.
yeah. So the only other thing I would say about that, though, is if we're running that drain line in there,
Yes, sir.
we want to keep it sanitized. We wouldn't want to have it just sitting in next to the floor or anything, right? At our existing hospital, we just do it off the existing barb fitting, but there's a drain
Right
that's
underneath.
mounted underneath it,
Sure.
creating an airspace
Sure.
in between.
Sure.
So that's something to, I don't know
we
if in
could, we could rig up some PVC piping, create an air gap here, but also create an air gap under each
Yeah.
one of those.
yeah, that's what we have existing. And it keeps everything sanitized,
Yeah.
Kyle, so that
Right.
when we start pulling water off there, it clears the existing nozzle
Yep.
and the lines and all that.
Okay, so let me see if I can get up here so everybody can see this. Excuse me.
All right, let's get the hospital techs close to him. I'll get back so you guys can watch.
we'll go right on top of the salt tank so everybody can kind of see what's going on. Once again, this is an actual chlorine test kit. It tests for free and total chlorine. We're going to test for total because we want to make sure there's none. So with that,
You want to slide it over here.
Yeah, thank you, pal.
yeah, perfect. Thank you, sir. And like I said, the test strip's a lot easier to use, a lot easier to manage. Obviously, we do a lot of different applications, not just dialysis, so that's why we have the more scientific kit.
And you'll send me the
Yeah, I'll
email on
send
the
you plenty of
test
info
strip.
on that as well. I need to make sure, I think I actually have your email from
Yeah.
the other communications. So you fill that up to your first line. That's going to be 25 mils. Right about there.
Should that be washed out like 3 times before you actually do the test?
Yes. You want to rinse all of them 3 times, just like you mentioned. Make sure we are getting a good, accurate sample. Second sample vial, once again, rinse 3 times.
Okay, let's review. This is for total chlorine check.
Yes, sir, this is for total chlorine check to make sure that our worker and polisher carbons are operating properly and eliminating the chlorine. So A, we don't destroy our RO membranes, and B, we don't get any chlorine in the dialysis product water. There we go.
Now, is it important how you set those in there for that particular kit, or you just put them in?
With this, it doesn't matter. You just got two options. What you do have to remember, so you have your pillow packet of your chlorine reagent.
Right.
That's free. We're going with the total.
Okay. So you find your total chlorine packet.
Find your total
Okay.
chlorine packet. Sometimes they get a little clumped together, so give it a good shake. Flick it a few times so everything pours freely. And then, so whichever side does not have a color on your colorimetric disc, that's where you're putting your reagent.
Okay. So on one side of that glass tube it has color on it, and the other side it doesn't.
Exactly.
So you put the reagent on the non-colored side
That is correct.
of your test box there. Okay.
Shake it.
Shake it for how long?
Shake it for about 20 seconds. Make sure your reagent is totally in solution.
Okay.
And as we can see, we got no color, but just to be safe, we put it in, and then you want to match. You want to match your color scheme. Looks pretty close
so
to
you
me.
turn the dial and you match the color scheme. Okay, and then that tells you on the front
Right on the front,
how
at the
much
bottom
chlorine's
there.
in there.
Exactly. So as you
Okay.
get more color,
there's more chlorine.
exactly. So the goal the whole time, forever, is 0, 0, no color on both sides. Then you know your carbon's working.
Okay.
Once you start to see carbon breakthrough, maybe in a couple years, then it's time to rebed the filters. But in most cases, with most dialysis clinics, you're going to be rebedding these before you even see breakthrough.
Okay.
And that's just best practices, just to make sure you don't run into chlorine, 'cause that can be a nightmare for everybody.
So is there a schedule when you guys will come and like rebed these, or is it gonna be that?
It's really, there's not so much a schedule in most cases. It's going to be every couple years, whether it needs it or not in most dialysis
Gotcha.
clinics. So in a couple years, you call us, you call somebody, you guys do it yourself, whatever works. And yeah, with that process, you're looking at probably a whole day The valves come off of the tanks, the water gets sucked out, the old carbon gets sucked out, new carbon gets put in the beds, let it soak for a while, then you flush it, and then they're back in service.
Now let me ask you this.
Sure.
As far as dialysis for the patient,
Sure.
while these tanks are down,
Yeah, that's, we typically these
You're
type
on
of rebeds.
You're on city water, Dave.
okay,
Yeah, so then they have the portable machines that they're gonna operate.
Portable machines.
Yeah.
okay. So we're good as far as.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got redundancy, just not our own.
Okay.
Okay,
So yeah, that's a great point. So in most cases when the rebed maintenance is going on, either it's when no one is needing dialysis or they switch over to portables or something like
okay.
that.
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just curious.
All right, so a couple questions real quick,
Sure.
Jacob. All right, so that was our total chlorine test.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about this. How long is the warranty under the current installation and project?
Sure.
If we have a motor go bad or a pump go bad, what happens there?
Yeah, and just like any commercial water treatment equipment, you got a 1-year warranty, and that pretty much covers the whole system from
Okay.
in to out.
Okay.
So you guys are covered there next year if you have any.
And then the next question, follow-up, what is your response time in the event we have a major breakdown or a
Well,
problem?
Absolute, that's something that Absolute is great about. I mean, when there's an emergency call, we're there that day or the next.
And we call your number, or who do we call?
You
Because
would the best thing to do at that point would be call the office or call Lance directly. Lance is
Lance.
our operations service manager, so he's going to be the one to get everything scheduled and dispatch
to
and things
dispatch.
like that.
How many technicians do you have on site out
In
there?
Indy,
Out of Indy.
1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have 5 now.
Okay.
And then sometimes I jump in when things get real busy to do that too.
And I can find this out, maybe you already know.
Sure.
Are you providing technical support to majority of the IU health facilities now?
Well, we take care of all the IU labs. We have an exclusive contract with the labs. As far as dialysis, it's kind of hit or miss. I think we have 3 or 4 other dialysis stations with IU. I think they'd like to do a lot of work with Fresenius.
we have
or
Marcors, most of ours.
Marcor, yeah.
Marcor.
But
Yeah.
as far as IU goes, man, we take care of a lot of the labs. We take care of a lot of the sterile processing departments.
Okay.
IU is definitely one of our top tier customers that
Okay.
we want to make sure is always.
Now, this is sort of the elephant in the room here. The is running, correct?
Yes, sir.
But we have no salt in our brine tank.
Yes, sir.
So we should have salt in the brine
Yeah,
tank.
we need to get salt in the brine tank. I don't know what was originally covered on the interim, but yeah, at some point we need to get salt in the brine tank.
Is that something you guys do? Is that something we do?
That's what I would have to check on the beginning.
That's a good question. I assume you provided us with the initial installment to start your system up.
Sure.
But the ongoing would be, right now, we're providing salt.
Right, so we need to get salt in that tank.
So, yes, we need to
Okay.
get salt in that tank. The question, Bill, is, at this point, is it best for you guys to go pick up bags? Or
Yeah.
for me to have bags just delivered here?
Well, I don't know how the financing works with that. So if it's something that, I'm sure Mike would be more than generous to have bags over here. But, so,
I can cover the PO transfer. That's not
okay,
an issue.
okay.
It's easier for you to send me a quote or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
do it and I'll work with Brian
I'll work,
Jackson on the
okay.
transfer.
I'll work with Jamie today and we'll come up with a solution, but we gotta have salt in the tank.
Totally agree.
Definitely.
Do we ever check the softener to make sure that it's working right, check hardness on it?
Yeah, we're going to do that in just a moment.
Okay, because I know you need to check the hardness on the
Yeah,
softener.
and you're totally right, because once we start bleeding through on the hardness, we
Yeah.
start having problems.
So I just want to make sure we checked the carbon at this location.
Yeah,
And
we
then there's
We
one
have to-
right
we
back
have- We
here.
have to check it a second time, correct?
Definitely.
After the second?
Three
Definitely.
times.
And then the softener.
And then the softener, you got it. So your pre-filter, first your temperature, then your pre-filter, carbon, then we check our softener.
Right.
I'm sorry, you provided or somebody provided kind of a daily checklist.
Yeah, that's straight.
It's not fully updated because the temperature's slightly wrong, Bill, I think you have that also in your inbox. But
Okay.
that's something, that's a Word document, so you gentlemen can kind of tweak that as necessary.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that
I'll get
comes
this to you
directly
guys.
from the manufacturers of Water, and they put that together, and it's usually pretty thorough as far as everything that covers.
Okay. All right, good. So we're going to do another check now on hardness.
We're gonna do another check now on hardness. Just a minute if I can get this sealed up here.
So just to let you guys know in maintenance, on our existing system, Robert has this kit, I believe, or one very, very similar to this kit. And I have a video that I gave to Mark Miller on doing the water checks, just the water checks. And I also have a video on doing the hardness checks and also pulling the cultures and how to do that. So you guys can sit and pull it up on your computer and watch those, and you'll understand how to do the water checks and the tests as well.
Did he put it on our maintenance drive?
Huh?
Did he put it on our maintenance drive, Bill?
I don't know that he has, but he has a thumb drive with it all on it. And I have the hard disks.
Okay.
So if for some reason they get lost, I'll provide you those discs.
Okay.
All right. Very good. So that is the chlorine check.
All right, now let me get a look on that test kit, just so that if we don't have one or the guys have to buy one, they know exactly what to get.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a RAHC test kit. Like I said, that's for free and total chlorine. Pretty common in the water treatment industry. I want to say they run a couple $100. Then,
So quick question while you're doing that.
sure.
On that brine tank, I know that on the existing tank, we wanted about 2/3 full.
2/3 full of salt or water?
Salt, well, I think we had salt in our existing, maybe 2/3 the way up.
Yeah, that's
So
about
what
right.
gallon tank is that?
This is, you're probably looking at about a 50. What is that, a 24 by 50? Looks like.
Maybe 100, 200 gallon?
I bet that's 100, yeah.
100 gallon?
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah, that's a 100-gallon tank, 24 by 50 inch. And
Probably,
it has a salt grid.
10, 15 bags of salt probably put in there.
Yeah, I think this one holds about 400 pounds salt
Okay.
storage. So about 10 bags, depending.
10
What
bags
I'd
of salt.
recommend is, because this unit's set to regenerate every few days. It's not set on a meter because we want to make sure that it's doing its thing no matter what.
Right.
So what I recommend everybody do is get a pallet of salt somewhere, and once this gets low enough that you're seeing water rising above the salt, right about here, about a
Yep.
third of the way, at that point go ahead and top it off. But wait till it gets low before you top it back off.
Okay, thank you, Jacob.
Sure. As far as our hardness goes, SP4, that's going to be our last sample port after the softener.
Okay, yep, SP4, so that comes after after all your water softener tanks, this tank right here. Your last tank in line.
Exactly, last tank in line. Obviously want to flush it. Best
Okay.
if you got a bucket or something like that.
And should we look at another 5-minute to 10-minute flush there?
You're not going to so much need that here because we've already
Okay,
got the water moved.
groovy.
So I usually run this one for just a couple minutes maybe. Just to make sure we're getting good flow, getting anything that's been sitting out of the lines out of there.
Now my estimation on this test is we will not probably have soft water.
And you very well may be correct at this point, depending on how much has been processed and how long everything's been turned on.
It was turned on the 21st.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So Dave, since you're out here every day, right? So you could support the water check once a week up until time. Okay, good. Or maybe have a rotation. I don't know how you guys want to do it.
Well, look at it more, we can get involved.
Right.
I think Bobby and Sam,
Okay.
we all
together.
ought to just do it together for a little while.
Right.
Learn-
Absolutely.
That's a good idea. Once again, another RAHC test kit. This is only for hardness.
Okay, only hardness. Okay.
And with this one, You have your 5 milliliter test tube, and then you have your 25 milliliter vial. Once again, we are going to rinse our test tube 3 times.
So who has their cell phone with them here? Can you guys take pictures of these? Well, that's okay. Just I'll do it when we're done here. If you, anytime you get a picture of something, you'll know exactly what we need because these are his kits and things. So we'll have to make sure that we order those.
And once again, this is a pretty common kit in the industry. As far as water treatment goes, whether it's manufacturing process, dialysis, sterile processing, is a pretty common.
I'll give that to you. You can
So
make
you
a
have
copy of it.
3 buffer solutions. Hardness 1, that is your initial reagent. You obviously got to push down on your cap and squeeze. You have your dropper. 3 drops to start with of hardness 1. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to titrate for about 5 to 10 seconds. Make sure everything's thoroughly mixed. Then our second buffer solution is hardness indicator 2. It is also called Manver hardness indicator. I think the back actually, this one doesn't say hardness 2. Some actually say hardness 2 on there. And double check, this is 3.
It's the colored bottle.
Right, the colored bottle
Okay.
is your second hardness. So once again, 3 drops here. And basically, if you turn blue right away,
Yeah,
we're pretty close.
yeah, it's not bad. There's a little purple when you
And there's
put
a
it
little
in there.
purple, yeah. So if you turn blue right away, looks like we may have a grain or 2 of hardness in there coming through, but straight blue, kind of like really dark blue, kind of like that tube in the back.
It should be more of a sky blue. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's
A little more purpley.
all right. So
Now, Jacob, on
Yes,
that, so is there
It should
a
be
gradient
sky blue.
scale that you match that to?
Exactly.
there is not. Basically, if you're seeing purple or pink, like if we tested the raw water, it'd be just straight pink. Then
Okay.
you know you're getting hardness. Hardness 3, that's going to tell us how many grains
Okay.
hard it is.
All right.
Now, does it bring it back clear?
It will bring it all the way blue. Once you're all the way and you have no purple, I bet we're about 2 or 3 here, probably because of the salt. So about every 3 drops, I shake. There's our change. So as we can see, that blue is very similar to that tubing in the back. That is soft water right there.
Okay,
So we're
so
looking for that color every test.
so that says we have 2 grains of hardness because you put 2 drops in there.
Exactly. So we
Okay,
have
so it's
2
the number of drops that equals the grains of hardness to bring it back to the neutral color.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
what should we have as far as the standard 1?
0 to 1.
0 to 1.
Yeah.
0 to 1. Okay.
0 to 1 is saying you're getting soft water and the softener's working. But like you said, without salt, we're getting just a little bleed through. Not anything serious at this point, but that's what's going on with it.
Okay, good.
And then a little trick you can try, which this may not even be a good dialysis trick, but once you get your blue, you can take your soft water that you pulled your sample from. If you stay blue, then you're pretty well soft. There we go. So we are right there. I mean, we may be just a couple grains, but
Okay.
we are right there.
All right.
And then we rinse everything, and you are good to go. Record your readings from there.
3 rinses and record. Okay. All right. And on that recording, it should be on this sheet, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, that
Okay.
sheet will usually have hardness. So it has, yeah, water softener hardness.
Okay. Now, what about this final water mega ohm?
But Megohm, we're not going to need it really here because you don't have any deionized water.
Okay.
So we're not going to get into any Megohm quality. So we're measuring in conductivity or micro Siemens at this point.
Okay. Then let's just let me just go through this list real quick.
Sure.
So then we got feed water pressure, temperature, water softener hardness. Then we're looking at RO rejection percentage.
Okay, so RO rejection percentage, that's just a good way to trend how well the RO is doing. And with that,
So you hold power.
down your power button to get the system in operation. Membrane flush, that's saying it's going to go for 6 minutes. But once the system is running, actually it'll say percentage right there, and it'll actually show you your percentage.
Okay, so this really isn't running at this point.
No, because everything is full and nobody's calling for
We're going to do that on
water.
the 18th. Okay.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
it'll say here, so this is your micro Siemens. So it switches between the hours of operation and the temperature. And then this will have micro Siemens. It looks like based on our sensor back there, we're doing about 1.5 micro Siemens, which is excellent quality water. And then it'll also show the percentage rejection
Yeah.
when that switches over.
I got that on the video. So then we go into anti-scalant.
Anti-scalant, we don't have anti-scalant because we have a water softener.
Okay. So check system for leaks. We can do that. Product water bacteria. That's in for the endotoxin area
That's
that
gonna
when
be
we
the
pull a
endotoxin.
culture.
You got it?
And that's monthly. Okay. And then yes, another endotoxin, which is monthly.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you guys, what other questions you have for Jacob today?
So you say we're going to try to get strips. That's what I would recommend. It's just easier. You guys can test however you want, but yeah, a lot of biomeds and a lot of people in dialysis like the hardness test strips and like the chlorine test strips because you're not mixing anything. You draw your sample, you wave your test strip in the water for about 20 seconds. It has a color reading, and there you go. So it's a lot easier. I'm going to send Bill some information on the strips.
So what we'll do, though, I think that for the training side of this and understanding, right? I'll see if Jamie can order us these kits. Sure. That way you can start this way, and then you can learn as you go with the strips, and then it'll be easier, I'm sure. You'll say throw away the gray kits, but the point is that we ought to, till we learn the system, let's go with what we got.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I think that's a good
All right.
idea.
Good. No other questions. I'm going to close the video out then for today for the soft DI analysis water training.
Storage tank.
What's that?
Do we have a storage tank?
We do not with this system. I do not believe. It looks like everything is direct feed and then heat sanitizable.
Okay, so if something happens here, then we have to immediately stop.
Yes, that is correct.
Because there's no storage.
You don't have to do the floor
Good
like-
question. Yep.
like Kyle talked
Yep,
about.
and the project originally was just standalone RO at each of the 4 dialysis bays. We ended up, through working with the dialysis team, ended up adding city water piped also to each bay. They would bring in their portable units or whatever, however they do it. But they're fully aware that this system may not be operational 100% of the time. They do have the ability to still care for a patient.
Kyle, can you show us those water ports for the guys so that they know if somebody in dialysis is not aware of where to do the switch over?
So we'll just go to this one.
That's fine. All right, so this is where the switchover is for the city water connection.
That is correct. I think the RO is up top.
Okay.
City water is down below.
Okay.
I do believe, Bill, it's just the valve there at the bottom.
Okay. So what we would do then is if we shut off the RO system in there, we would pull from here and connect to here.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. At least that'll give you guys an opportunity. You can tell the folks if they're not aware. I'm sure they're completely aware.
They're aware.
All right, I'm going to shut this off. It is October the 4th, Monday, DI Water Training, RAHC.